I'm going to get to all of this writing over here in a moment, and then I'm going to move on to the derivation of the force of interest and then a few examples. But first, I just want to quickly give you the intuition behind what exactly the force of interest is. Okay, so if we think of interest in general and an effective rate of interest, and let's say this timeline over here that I've drawn in pink is a year, so that's time 0 and that's time 1. Effective interest per annum is paid once, right at the end. Okay, and what happens if we have interest paid half yearly? Then we split our year in half and we have 2 interest payments. And quarterly, it looks something like that with 4 interest payments. And if we keep splitting this up into more and more interest payments, in fact, if we split it up an infinite number of times to the point where we are paying interest at every single point possible along this timeline, what we essentially end up with is a constant line. And that's known as the force of interest. It's interest that is paid continuously. Okay, so let's then move ahead to all of this writing that I've prepared over here to exactly understand this in terms of the mathematics. So if we have y is equal to this function over here, 1 plus x over p to the power of p. Now that should remind you of 1 plus I p over p to the power of p, which is equal to 1 plus I. That's our effective interest factor. And this is the same factor, obviously, because it's an equal sign, but this is a nominal interest, this IP. So this here should somewhat resemble that. The x should resemble the IP, and then obviously the p's are the same. Okay, so the reason why I haven't made this IP, it will come clear as I move along in the proof. I could have made it IP, but it'll come clear. I didn't want to make it so specific just yet, because we ideally want to end up discovering what this x actually is. Okay, so my end goal is to make this p infinite. I want to take the limit as p approaches infinity. And why do I want to do that? Well, that's because of my explanation earlier where I said we are paying interest an infinite number of times along our timeline. So what does that mean? Well, that means if we were paying interest quarterly, then p would be 4. And if we're paying interest half yearly, p would be 2. And if we want to pay interest an infinite number of times, we want p to be as large as possible. So we're going to take this limit as p approaches infinity. And the reason why I made this equal to y is so that we can do logarithmic technique for these limits. So I take the natural log of both sides, and then I can take the limit of both sides, and then I'm left with this equation if I take p into the denominator. And then using L'Hopital's rule, I can derive the numerator, and I end up with that expression, derive the denominator, end up with that expression. I cancel the p squared, I cancel that negative, and then if p goes to infinity, this x over p becomes 0, and then all I'm left with is x on the right-hand side. But that's still, of course, the limit as p approaches infinity of the natural log of y. So that then leads to this very next step, or this very next line, where we have this limit as p approaches infinity of 1 plus x over p to the power of p is equal to e to the power of x. Okay, and remember earlier, I said that 1 plus x over p to the power of p resembles 1 plus ip over p to the power of p, which is the same as 1 plus I, our accumulation factor. So if we take the limit as p approaches infinity, it's still an accumulation factor, 1 plus I. So when e to the power of x, which is this limit here, when that equals to our accumulating factor, we can call x delta. And that's when we call delta the force of interest. Okay, so let's move on to a formal derivation of the force of interest. So at time t, if we have a certain accumulated value a of t, and then at some time later after t, a period h later, at t plus h, we have an accumulated amount of a of t plus h. Then we can express the interest between these 2 points in time over this time period using this equation or this function on this right-hand side here, or this expression. So what essentially is interest? Well, we know that interest is the percentage of our initial value that we must pay, or that gets added. So if we have compounding interest, and we have a certain amount x in our account, and we need to grow this, then at the end of this time period, I multiply x by my interest, and I add that back to x to get what I'm left with in my account. Okay, So then interest is the proportion by which your account grew. So I can express interest over this period as the accumulated amount at t plus h minus the accumulated amount at the start divided by the accumulated amount at the start. So that's simply the proportion by which our accumulated amount has grown. In other words, the interest. Okay, and I want to know what this interest is when I pay it at every point in time, when I pay it continuously. And how do I do that? Well, I make h, I don't make h equal to 0, but I make h approach 0. And if I make h approach 0, then this point becomes extremely close to this point over here at t. And then I can find the force of interest, because after all, that's what we know the force of interest to be. The interest that is paid in a infinitesimally small time interval. So if I take the limit as h approaches 0 of this function, and I divide it by h, and I divide it by h because you'll see that it becomes convenient for me to have done that, I'm going to define that to be equal to the force of interest, delta of t. Okay, so if I'm taking the limit on the left-hand side, and then I'm dividing by h, I do the exact same thing to this right-hand side, as you can see here. I take the limit, and I divide by h, and this a over t, it's nothing new here, it was just over there, I've just moved it over to the right. Okay, well, there's something that we should notice here. This is the definition of the derivative. Okay, so we can replace that then with the derivative in terms of t of a of t. And of course, this 1 over a of t remains. And now that's obviously why you see that we divided by h. It became useful over here when we wanted to convert it into the derivative. Okay, so this is now a differential equation. And if we solve it, we get that a of t is equal to e to the integral, or e to the power of the integral of 0 to t of delta s. Okay, and we integrate in terms of s. Okay, so this is now a formal derivation to get exactly what the force of interest is. So this right here and this right here are our final formulae for the forces of interest, or the force of interest, and this is our final formula for the accumulated amount using the force of interest. And then something also that you should note is that the discounting factor, or the opposite of the accumulating factor, to reverse accumulation, is this. So simply we simply add a negative in the exponent. So not add it, but we multiply the exponent by a negative. Okay, so let's move on to a few examples to really understand how these work. Okay, so this question asks us to calculate the future value in 5 years of $500 when the force of interest delta t is equal to 0.02 t. So we want to know the future value of $500. So we have 500, and that's in 5 years' time. And remember now, instead of putting 1 plus I to the power of 5, we have a force of interest, not a normal interest, or effective or nominal. We don't have any of those, we have a force of interest. So we must use the accumulating factor e, and we raise that to the integral from 0 to 5. So 0 is our present time point, and we're taking it 5 years into the future. So we integrate from 0 to 5 of our force of interest. So we must integrate this function here, 0.02 t dt. And if we do that, we get 500 times by e to the integral from, okay, I can actually solve this integral now. So 0.02 t squared over 2, but 0.02 over 2 is just 0.01, and we're integrating that from 0 to 5. So if we substitute 5 in, we get 5 squared, which is 25, times by 0.01, which becomes e to the 0.25, and then we subtract in this exponent here 0.01 times by 0 squared, which is just 0, so we can leave that as that. But now obviously we want to express it as a monetary value, so we have dollars, and if you type that in your calculator, you should get $642.01. Okay, so let's move on to this next question. It's a slightly trickier question. So we must assume that the delta t, the force of interest per annum at time t in years, is given by this formula over here. And we need to derive an expression for v of t. And v of t is the discounting factor. And it says that v of t is the present value of 1 at time t. And the present value of 1 is simply just the discounting factor because we're just multiplying it by 1. It doesn't really change v of t. Okay, so in other words, that I just said basically that v of t times 1 is the same as v of t. Okay, so how do we go about doing this? Well, we have 3 different time periods here. So we're going to need 3 different calculations for v of t. Okay, so let's first deal with this time period from 0 to 5. Okay, well, v of t, remember earlier we said v of t is equal to e to the negative 0 to t of delta s ds. Okay, now that's important just to note. Okay, that didn't really box very well, but that's important to note so that we can actually go ahead and use it for each of these time periods. So now we're between 0 and 5, and our force of interest is 0.08. So this is easy enough. We have e to the integral to the 0 to t of 0.08 ds. Okay, and if we solve that integral, we should get e to the negative 0.08 t. Now, I don't really want to bore you with solving the integrals. This is something that I probably would have expected someone to know if they're already doing force of interest. Okay, so that's the expression that we get for this time period between 0 and 5. So let's now deal with the period between 5 and 10. 5 less than or equal to t less than 10. And now v of t is equal to e to the negative integral from 0 to t delta s ds. Okay, and now you might ask me, what are we going to do here? Because we have from 0 to 5 and then 5 to 10 with different forces of interest. So that's not actually a problem. What we can just do is we can split it up. So we have the integral from 0 to 5 first of 0.08. And then we have the integral from 5 to t of 0.06. Okay, and this you should recognize is the exact same as that, except now t is 5. So what we can do is we can substitute in 5 into this formula over here for t. So if we do that, we should get, this becomes e to the negative 0.4, because 0.08 times by 5 is 0.4. And then if we solve that integral and that exponent, we get e to the negative 0.06t plus 0.3. Okay, and then we can add all of the exponents here, and we get e to the negative 0.06t minus 0.1. Okay, so we've dealt with the time intervals from 0 to 5 and 5 to 10. Now let's deal with beyond 10, so t greater than or equal to 10. So once again, v of t is equal to e to the negative integral from 0 to t of delta s ds, which we know to just be, so now we can split this up from 0 to 5, and then 5 to 10, and then 10 and beyond. But now notice that we already have an expression for v of t, the present value at time 0, for this time interval, 5 to 10. So we can then just split this up as such, from 0 to 10. We don't actually have to split that up at 5, because we have this already. So this v of t is the present value at time 0. Okay, so we have delta s ds, and then we integrate from 10 to time t of 0.04, our force of interest 0.04 ds. Okay, now this is simply v of 10. Okay, so we can substitute 10 into this function over here, and what we'd get is negative 0.06 times 10, negative 0.6 minus 0.1, e to the negative 0.7. And then if we solve this integral, we should get e to the negative 0.04 t plus 0.4. Okay, and then of course now again we can add the exponents, and we get e to the negative 0.04 t minus 0.3. So we're not done here. We were asked to derive an expression for v of t, but this is all over the place. We have part of our answer over here, part of it over here, and part of it over here. So let's just bring this into one piecewise function. So we have v of t is equal to, and between 0 and 5, we have e to the negative 0.08. And that was for t between 0 and 5. So we say for 0 less than or equal to t less than 5. And then between 5 and 10, we have e to the negative 0.06t minus 0.1. So we have e to the negative 0.06t minus 0.1. And that is for 5 less than or equal to t less than 10. And then for t greater than or equal to 10, we have this expression over here, e to the negative 0.04t minus 0.3, and we're done. And something to note quickly is that this piecewise function is actually continuous. So if you substitute 5, oh, and I've made a mistake here. It should have had a t over there. Okay, so if you substitute 5 into that equation, or that equation, you get the exact same number. So in here, we get e to the negative 0.4, and if we substitute it in here, if we substitute 5, we get e to the negative 0.3 minus 0.1, which is e to the negative 0.4 again. So those are the same, and you can check that that's the same for those two as well if you substitute in 10. Okay, so I hope you found this video interesting and useful, and if you did, please don't forget to leave it a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching.